got a tripod, so I get to use it. So let's talk about dogs. Dogs. Let's talk about Huskies specifically, because Huskies are not even close to normal domesticated dogs. Hi. Hello. All you guys stink. You smell like farts. I gave them pieces of fat off my steak yesterday. Guys, stinky bum. Yeah. They're not like fetch dogs, you know. They're gonna think, they have their own prerogative, their own motives. You know, my dogs have never been the kind of dogs that are just like, oh, here's a stick, go get it. They need a lot of mental stimulation as well as physical stimulation. You have to remember that these dogs were bred for, you know, hauling ass over very long distances. So their endurance is unreal. To tire out a Husky, you've really got to go the extra mile. They're notorious for taking off. They are not known to be off-leash dogs. My dogs can be off-leash, like when I take them on trails in the forest and stuff where they have lots of space. I can't have them off-leash when I'm in the city because they love to roam. They just want to run everywhere and check things out, and you know, they have their, like I said, they have their own prerogative. So they're like, oh, what's this? I'm gonna go see what this is. Rather than more domesticated dogs are more concerned with what you're doing, right? So lots of people don't actually achieve training them off leash. And my biggest suggestion for that is to, like, my dogs, I raised them with as much off leash time as I possibly could. I didn't even start leashing my dog as a puppy until, you know, she started getting a little bit older, and it felt weird. It was really weird after having her off leash all the time. But the point is that I raised her with so much freedom, so she never felt like she had to rebel against not having freedom. You know, she never felt like she had to run away and get off leash to have her freedom. So I really created that bond and that trust with her. You know, my crossbreed, Mayanna, my crossbreed Mayanna, she likes to bury her face. Bury her face in my lap. She's got some lab and shepherd in her, so she has much better recall. Honestly, I think her mom they feed off of each other and they get that pack mentality and they influence each other. So it's really tricky to train two dogs. Hello. You know, once they're together. Hello. Like if I just had Mayanna, she probably, you know, she'd always listen to me. But her mom is like, let's go explore first. And so Mayanna's like, hell yeah, Mom. It's amazing what I have heard from so many different people about training dogs. And this is just like, not even just for Huskies, but like this whole dominance thing, you know, and like discipline and like, oh, it's just, it's awful. Like being the alpha, like all this absolute utter crap about how to train a dog. I even had a boyfriend tell me once that I should nip with my teeth my puppy behind the ear because that's what they do to each other, you know, or like, just insane. Or rub their nose in their pee when they have an accident, stuff like that. It doesn't work. Not only does it not work, but it scars your dog. And the other thing I wanted to say about Huskies is that, like, the bond with the Husky is so important. They remember things and they can become resentful. They will retain information and they will become resentful very quickly. And you don't want a Husky to be resentful towards you because they have an inclination to escape and to want to be free and wild and, you know, explore. Like they're escape artists for sure. They're very difficult to, you know, you have to have high fences. They'll even dig. So you want to make sure that they are bonded to you and you guys have a good trust relationship. So they're not looking for ways to, you know, like, be released from you, to evade you. You're never ever gonna get lonely with this type of dog. They're pack animals. They like to be in groups. They like to be close. So they follow me everywhere, into every room. You know, they're a little bit more chill in this cabin because it's smaller, so they know everywhere I'm going. But if I had a bigger house with them that had 2 floors, and you know, anytime I would go upstairs, both of them run up behind me. Go downstairs, both of them run behind me. So the only time it gets kind of annoying is when, like, you're in a hurry to go somewhere and you're trying to get ready and you've got to bypass these 2 massive dogs, like, going down the stairs, and you're like running. Oh, you forgot my t-shirt down in the downstairs bathroom, and you run down to go and get it, and you have this big herd following you. So be prepared for that. That is, you know, going to happen, especially if you have 2. They're very intuitive dogs. I mean, I think all dogs are pretty intuitive for the most part, but they're very intuitive dogs. So, you know, they will pick up on the energy of the room. Like, if you're uncomfortable, it's very unsettling for them. They just get to know you. They pay attention to a lot of things, and I think that's because, you know, like, these dogs, if they were to survive in the wild, they, you know, in order to survive, you have to sort of really pay attention to all of your senses and be able to read things and pick up on things very, very clearly. So they're very aware of those senses, I find. Just the tiniest little influxes of emotion and movement. This is a pet peeve for me. It's a big pet peeve. Huskies are very prey driven, and it is a part of their breed that they chase things that are little. And there are just some things that are a part of breeds that they do. That's why you get the breed, because it's who they are. You know, I'm not going to say it's impossible to train it out of them, because, like, I'm sure, like, with extensive training straight from puppyhood, you could really train, you know, anything. But these dogs, innately and naturally, like, they are very prey-driven animals. They chase things that are little. My dogs go nuts for rabbits. Rabbits are the biggest kryptonite to my dog. You know, they just see it and they just like, I can't tell you how many times I've taken my dog on my bike when I'm like a bicycle, and I'm taking her for a good run, and she sees a bunny like run across the road, and I have gone flying because she just can't control herself. It's just like, it just comes over her. So the other part of this that makes this kind of inconvenient to deal with is that when you go to a dog park, there are little tiny dogs at the dog park, okay? And this is really frustrating for me because, you know, there's a particular dog park that I went in the Kootenays, my hometown in Cranbrook, and, you know, this dog park is big and beautiful, gorgeous, massive dog park. And then, you know, it also had a little pen for small dogs. Specifically, it said small dogs. So you got this big area for the big dogs, and you have this little area for the small dogs. And guess what? All the people that had small, little, tiny, fluffy, little itty-bitty chihuahuas that looked like squirrels would, you know, bring them into the big dog area, right? So it's just so unfair to me, and I don't think that people understand that dogs have prey drives. Certain breeds will chase those dogs. That's why there is a small dog area. And it's inconsiderate because it's like, you know, there's a couple times in those instances where, like, I remember this one old man, he had 3 chihuahuas and just this little pack of rats. Sorry, I like dogs. But they look the equivalent of a rodent, right? And there's 3 of them, and he brought them into the large dog area, and I took, instead of asking him to leave, because I had already had this conversation with him, right? And then I noticed that there was a couple more people bringing small dogs in. It was just like overwhelming. So I was like, you know what? I can't talk to every single person in here and explain, because I did talk to this man once before, and I said, would you mind just going in the small dog area, because my dogs have prey drives and I'm worried that they will chase your dogs. Not always, but there's a chance, you know. And of course he gave me just an earful, even though I was in the right and it said small dog pen, but, you know, whatever. So there was a lot of people that day who brought their little dogs into the big dog area. And I'm like, screw this, I'm not gonna win here, let's keep everybody safe. So I brought my dogs into this small dog area, and it was just like so frustrating because there's this massive pen. My dogs love to run, love to sprint, need that. That's why I brought them to the dog park, so they could go off leash and in this protected area, right? And in the small dog area, it's not enough exercise for them. It's not enough stimulation, so they're getting ripped off their exercise because other people can't follow the rules. So it's frustrating, and I know people should say, you know, oh, you should be in complete control of your dog at all times. If they're attacking other dogs, then that's a behavior issue and blah, blah, blah. You know, like, to an extent, I get that. And I'm not saying this happens every time there's a little dog, but there's an instinct in them when they see a little tiny dog out of nowhere run across the field, which is the equivalent of a little squirrel, you know, like 7 times out of 10, they're going to chase after it because they think it's a squirrel. More on the topic of exercise for Huskies. They will fidget and get into things and behave badly if they are not exerted. If they are not physically exerted, they will have behavioral issues. And so, you know, one of the problems that I have faced, because sometimes, like right now, there's nowhere where I can take my dogs off leash. So I'm in the process of buying a dog sled because I've seen these awesome things. I'm going to start training with them. But for the time being, the only exercise that I can offer them is when I take them out running with me a couple times a day, right? So they're not getting as much exercise as they used to. They used to just free run in this big, beautiful field that I camped at for 2 months over the summertime. So what happens is when they are cooped up, you know, they can be just sort of just packed with all this energy, and then you take them out and they just like, yeah, you know, they can come up, they can be easily excited, you know, by stimulating things, you know, other dogs, people, right? Because then it's like, oh, it's just like they're just so pent up, right? So it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that I'm a bad dog owner. It doesn't mean that they're not trained. It doesn't mean that they're bad dogs. It just means that sometimes they're pent up and they need more exercise. They get a little bit overly excited. And then in these times where, you know, social distancing and all this COVID stuff, there's a lot of people that just aren't getting as much contact. And same with dogs. There's not a lot of socializing. So when your dog hasn't seen other dogs for a while, they just get a little friggin' excited. And that doesn't necessarily, you know, mean that you have to judge someone. Or me. You don't have to judge me. My dogs get excited sometimes. It's not the end of the bloody world. They're very food-driven animals. Food-driven. If you have nice quality treats, you can pretty much train them to do anything. You've got to find the thing that they most desire. And Huskies aren't easily satiated with like a toy. They'll value a nice quality, you know, piece of meat over anything. And that brings me to their diet. I know. It's really disappointing to me that people feed their dogs crap. And it's just never made any sense to me. Hello. Hello. I've always had my dogs on a Cana. I've seen the best, you know, like perfect everything. One thing that really stands out to me about a Cana is that every time I put them on it, their coats are just glossy. They shine. They smell good. They're beautiful. Their coats are gorgeous. And it seems to really satiate them, and they love eating it. So I've had the most success with the Cana. I tried Origin, which is like it's the same company as a Cana, but it's a higher protein diet. And I was like super intrigued by this. It's a little bit more expensive, but you can get so I put them on Tundra for a little while, which is a diet. It's a carnivore diet strictly that consists of like all sorts of wild game. Right? So I can't remember exactly what's in there. I think there's like goat and boar and venison and I don't know, something like that. But I found that the dogs, like your dog has to be really, really active in order to metabolize that properly, because it is a lot of protein. So I found it made them a little bit constipated, and they kind of lost their appetite for it. They didn't want to eat it after a while. And switched them back onto a Cana, and bam, their appetite was back, and they were having regular bowel movements again. So yeah, I mean, they say that you should put your Huskies on a high protein diet, but I've always had the best luck with the Cana. That's always been, so my argument is that, like, people buy these cheaper dog brands, supersize bag at Walmart, and it's just so disheartening, because it's like, that stuff is like McDonald's. There's so much shit in that food. You have to think of your dog as a living being that has a complex system, just like your body. And if you're eating McDonald's every day, what do you think is going to happen to you? You're going to develop health issues and tumors and cancerous growths and all kinds of stuff. And it's the same thing that happens to your dogs. I see dogs all the time that get tumors and die at an early age, or they get all these health complications, and it's directly correlated to the food. People don't even think about that, but you really have to think about the quality and the body, the system of your dog, right? And if you put the money now into the proper food of ensuring your dog's health, they're going to live long, healthy lives without like a big stack of medical bills. So if you're saving money now by spending less on cheap food, you're just going to be paying way more later on all the health issues, and they're going to suffer and not live as long. So why wouldn't you want to give the very best life you can be for your dog? I'm really fortunate that I can offset the cost of my cabin by helping my landlords clean cabins, and it's just perfect for me because I don't have to deal with anybody, and I have a beautiful view, and I'm alone, and I just listen to my Joe Rogan podcast, and I just really like it. It's awesome.